I'm Larry Berkelhammer. I have the privilege of sitting here today with Chris Furbee. Chris Furbee lives with Huntington's disease. I interviewed him about a year ago. We did a 4-part interview, and it was so well received. Chris and I have both heard from so many people around the world that they really appreciated it, that we set up this additional follow-up 1 year later. And we'll be talking about various topics revolving around living with Huntington's disease and various topics around how to live better with chronic disease, what works and what doesn't work. Welcome back, Chris.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
So, how long did it take you to make the documentary?
From the time that I started shooting till we finally finished editing, 18 years.
Wow, that's a long time. I don't think Hollywood would be happy with spending 18 years making a film.
No, they wouldn't. The thing that happened was there were years where, it's about my family and my history with the disease. So basically it's my story. So there were years where, I didn't want to have anything to do with Huntington's disease. So I wouldn't shoot anything at all.
Yeah.
I didn't want to have anything to do with it.
You didn't have producers who were waiting?
Right, no producers. I didn't have, I'd never had like a lot of money available to me at one time. So this last year I finally had, I had a benefactor who basically was matching people's money for dollar. So
it was delayed partly because of your personal reasons. You live with Huntington's,
yes,
and have family who lived with Huntington's, and your mother, and so it was so personal. It was so difficult for you making it that you needed to take a break. And then the other problem was a lack. You had to wait for the funds.
Right. Yes.
When did you get diagnosed?
What happened is I was on vacation, going up to visit my dad who lives in Canada. I was doing a driving road trip up there. And what happened is I stopped at my friends Dave and Sabine's house to spend some time with them. My friend Sabine wanted me to shoot her riding on her horse. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. Well, what happens is when we show that, when we're shooting it, she falls off the horse, all this mayhem ensues. What happens is, we realize, Sabine's okay, so now we gotta go back and watch her, make fun of her.
That scene is in your documentary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and what happens is, as I'm watching the footage, I see myself, and I'm seeing this, my left arm's like making these extreme movements, and the entire time, and it was just like all of a sudden I was just realizing it was like, wow, and I'm symptomatic, and I started to kind of do. I asked my dad what he thought, if he thought I was symptomatic.
And he knew what to look for because your mother died of Huntington's.
Correct.
During the time you were making the documentary?
Yeah, my mom, she died back in 2000.
Yeah.
And I think what happened was after I left, he basically was, he thought it through and he was like, he's symptomatic. And what happened is I went to my support group and I was like I want everyone here, in this group to tell me,
You have a support group for people who have Huntington's disease. It's specifically for people with Huntington's disease.
Exactly. And this has been going on for years. These people know me better than anyone, and they know what to look for.
Yeah.
And I asked every one of them, I said, don't sugarcoat it for me, let me know. And every one of them, said, you're symptomatic.
Yeah.
So, and
so you
not exactly what I wanted to hear, but.
And had you already gotten tested and found out you had the gene before that?
That is correct. Yeah. I found that out.
So you knew you had the gene, so you knew you were going to get it.
Correct.
The one thing I should say for people watching this who haven't who don't know anything about Huntington's and who have not seen the 4-part interview we did a year ago with Huntington's, if you have the gene and you have a certain number of repeats, then there's just no escape.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have,
I think that's kind of unique because with ALS and Parkinson's and muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, you can have the genes and not get it, not have the genes and get it. But with Huntington's, if you have the genes, a certain number of repeats, it's guaranteed. You know,
yes,
you're looking at this.
Yeah, you will develop symptoms.
Yeah.
What they've been able to do with the Huntington gene is, everybody has the Huntington gene.
Everyone who has Huntington's disease.
No, everybody has the Huntington gene. That's what it's called.
We all have that. So it's normal to have the Huntington's gene.
Correct.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what happens is that when you're tested, a majority of the people, if you don't have it at all, your repeats are going to be 30 or less.
Mm-hmm. So you went to see a genetic counselor, and what happened when you went to see the counselor? I imagine you were going to find out if you were likely to develop the disease?
Yeah, correct. I went to UCSF, and what happened is first they have you see a neurologist, mm-hmm. and he does all these tests on you, which is a standard practice.
And I saw in the documentary that the neurologist found at that time you were asymptomatic.
Correct.
So it looked from your behavior that you probably didn't have Huntington's disease.
Right, exactly.
And then you go to the genetic test. And what happened there?
What happened there is basically they basically do a test on your the CAG repeats, and basically what happens is I had my number was 43, which basically means that I will develop symptoms in my lifetime. And
is anything over 30 or 35?
35 and up. Mm-hmm. So
35 and up is symptoms.
There's kind of a gray area still, I think, between the 35 and 40 area.
And the higher the number of repeats?
The higher the worse. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking, I think 120 is like the most repeats, and that's like a child, like a 2-year-old.
And they don't live long.
Not,
right.
Unfortunately, yeah. Very sad.
And how old were you at the point where you saw the geneticist?
I was 30 at that point.
So at 30, you were asymptomatic.
Correct.
But you were told.
I was told that I had the gene for it, which meant that I will, develop.
That you have enough repeats that you will become symptomatic.
Correct.
And tell us, for people who didn't see the 4-part documentary we did a year ago, what is your future looking like? What can you expect?
It's not pretty. Eventually, I'm going to, lose control of all of my muscles to a point where, I won't be able to do anything for myself. It also affects people differently cognitively. So,
So it doesn't just affect the muscles.
No, it affects.
Yeah. So it affects the skeletal muscles, mm-hmm. So you can't control your movements at all.
Right.
Can't walk, can't talk because the tongue.
Because basically, you're exactly. Try talking and your tongue's moving all over the place, So.
And it's originating in the brain, mm-hmm. and so it also affects cognitive function too.
Correct. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's something that definitely scares me from time to time.
And of course, the diaphragm is a muscle, so that means at some point you won't be able to breathe on your own.
Well, the main causes of death with Huntington's is pneumonia and choking.
Choking because you can't control the swallowing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So food can go down, you aspirate, and then
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah,
Wow.
it's not pleasant.
Yeah. In your documentary, you show clips of your mother, and people watching your documentary can see what it's like very graphically. Now, knowing that, I mean, do you feel that there might be some hope for you to maybe, because you were diagnosed early, your mother wasn't diagnosed, you never got tested, do you think it's possible that things could turn out a little bit better for you?
Well, I definitely have hope. Yeah, I definitely have hope.
Do you ever wonder if there's more you can do? Like what more? So you're getting good medical care, you're exercising, eating right, sleeping.
Well, there's always, I'm sure there's always more you can do, but what is it that's available to me that I'm not aware of?
Yeah, this is important because there are a lot of people in the world who have other diseases, not necessarily Huntington's disease, which is more rare, but there are so many thousands of chronic illnesses that lead to severe disabilities of all types. And most people aren't aware that there are a lot of things they can do beyond the usual, like nutrition and exercise, sleep. I'd be happy to share some of those with you.
Yeah, I'd like that.